So all I was trying to do was help people. Ellie, help
I doubt
people.
that. I doubt that because you're a bastard.
Millions of people, millions of men. I mean, it's not something that'll apply to you being a woman, but prostate cancer hits millions of men. So what's so wrong about me helping my fellow male species? What's your problem with it?
Look, I just think you're a bit of a bastard. So I just think you're just making shit up.
You can call me names all you want, right? But give me a reason why I'm a bastard by wanting to help millions of men and this excruciating cancer that kills them.
Because I got loads of evidence that shows that you don't need to do it. So
you've got evidence.
Yeah.
You've got evidence.
Yeah.
So all of the medical industry that have tested on animals, that have cured loads of diseases, got loads of vaccines, all of a sudden you've got evidence that they didn't need to do that all along. Yeah, right.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, like, look, you're talking like a carnist, so yeah, they're right. Like, you're actually talking like a carnist. Like, oh, the dairy industry, they've just been doing it for all this time, and it just so happens that it's wrong.
How dare you compare me to a carnist? How dare you, Ellie? Right, so welcome to Grumpy Vegan Grandad. With me, as you can see, is Vegan Gaines's slightly better looking, more logical namesake, Vegan Gaze.
Hello.
And we are here to talk about, should we call it a mistake, Ellie? Should we call it a
misunderstanding?
It's a misunderstanding. So I'm going to tell you the story, and then we're going to talk about how easy this mistake can be made, how we aren't really that informed after myself, a vegan for nearly 5 years, got caught out by this and didn't see what I was actually contributing towards. It's crazy. But it all started, so let's try this screen sharing. I sound like a right boomer now. Let's try this newfangled screen sharing.
Let me just get it on my iPad.
I've got an eye patch. I don't know where that came from, Ellie. Jesus Christ. Right, let's have a look.
Let's see now. Oh, God.
Let's have a look. Say nothing. The best policy is say nothing.
Of course.
Right, so let's have a look. Oh, man. So do I? Yeah, there we go. Right, click on share. What? What the heck? Can you see that? Right.
Yeah, okay.
I'm being a total boomer here because I've got 2 screens and I'm not used to 2 screens. And it's just popped up on that one. So
oh, well, aren't you fancy?
Yes, I am. I've got 2 screens. Yes. Because I got one of my boys to steal me another one.
I see.
So, prostate cancer pop. So as you know, Ellie, I've been doing a lot of running because the gym's shut. I thought, right, let's do something to keep myself fit. So I decided to go running. And since March, I've built up to nearly half a marathon. And I saw this fight. Now, the first thing I saw was run the month. Throughout January, run 26 miles your way. So that's what got me hooked. Now, my thought processes are very similar to yours. We both assume that we might be slightly ADHD. So I just see something and act on impulse. So I thought, yes, I can do 26 miles. And it was more of an ego thing to start with. I can do 26 miles. I can show them. Clicked on find out more. And it was for prostate cancer. And I had a quick think about prostate cancer and thought, right, it's a big killer. It's diet related. It's my chance to speak up about how diet is related to prostate cancer, because what you actually do is set up a Just Giving page, and then you do posts on your run. So you go on the prostate cancer page and you do a post on your run. And one of my first posts was saying, yeah, it's diet related. Eating animal products is linked with prostate cancer. So whether you're going vegan or not, please contribute to my page because this research will help. And that was it. Did my first 12K, I think, a couple of weeks ago. And then the messages started happening. So the first message was on. Have you got that, Ellie?
I can see that.
Right, okay, so it's, I won't say who it's from. It says, "Hey Dan, Happy New Year, by the way. I'm not sure if you were aware."
Oh wait, hang on. So I'm not seeing it now. Hang on. So I'm seeing like a zoomed in version of the prostate.
Ah, okay, so maybe right, stop the share. Right, okay. So we've got this. So he posted the prostate cancer UK position statement, which I am going to put up in a minute and read. But it says, "Hey Dan, Happy New Year, by the way. I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but prostate cancer UK is involved in animal testing." Now, at this point, I hadn't looked at it, right? I admit I didn't look at it. So I squirmed a little bit and put this reply. Yes, but also linked to diet. So I mention it whenever possible. And then we had a little voice conversation that obviously I'm not going to put up. And he's basically saying, you know, you're pushing something that is hurting animals. You're raising money to something that is experimenting on animals. Blah 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 blah. And he basically said, you know, you shouldn't be doing it. So I basically said back to him, what I've said here is, I'm afraid sometimes we've got to put these things aside, which is fair enough. I mean, if your dad had prostate cancer, would you advise him not to use any cures? And he came back, well, no, of course I wouldn't. I would tell him to use the cure. So the hypocrisy started creeping in a little bit for me. This is what I was started having trouble with. It is like I'm starting to get comments about how they test on animals, yet these same people would use the cure to cure an illness if they got it. So I left that and I carried on. And then Facebook happened and I got is it this one? Let's share again.
Yep.
What
were you doing wrong?
I don't know. I really don't know. I really don't know. So, yeah, this was on the actual Facebook post that I put up about my first run. Here I am. I've done my first run. Woohoo to me. I've done 12K. Please donate to my charity. Here's the link. And it was obvious, but I think this person was trying to wheedle into why I was doing it. So they said the obvious question when it's got prostate cancer all over it. What charity are you doing this for, Danny? Do they carry out animal experiments? Well, I think they knew that they did. But then somebody else replied, yes, it does, and clicked up that. And then here we go again. Here's the excuses coming up. Yes, it does. As has the COVID vaccine. Boom, look at that. What a reply. I feel that with prostate cancer in particular, that kills millions of people, I can use this opportunity to highlight the fact that this terrible disease is linked to a diet eating animal products. Unfortunately, we don't live in a vegan world, and animal testing is involved with every part of medicine. It's unavoidable at the moment. So at this point, I'm doing my best. But at this point, again, I'm starting to thinking, am I doing the right thing? Because I'm not an arse, Ellie. If someday, don't laugh at that.
I'm not laughing. It's just a.
You're a rubbish liar, girl. I tell you, you're rubbish. So, I'm starting to doubt now. Am I doing the right thing? So, I had a look at. Let's share this. I had a look at what they actually do. Are you going to go into this animal testing thing later, or?
Yeah.
You are. So do I need to really read their statement, or have you got that?
I haven't got their statement, so you feel free to say what you say, and
Right,
I'll just.
Right. Right. So there we go. We've got. Let me get rid of that. We've got the Prostate Cancer UK position statement. Can you see that?
Yep.
Right.
I can indeed.
That's great. Right. So I'm going to skip something. I'm not going to go through all of it, but our position on the use of animals in medical research and the conditions within which we base decisions to research involving animals. So they're using the 3 R's, which is reducing the number of animals in experiments to the minimum necessary for reliable results. I like the laugh because I know what's coming. Refining the experimental procedures to minimize the pain, suffering, or distress caused to animals. Now that is like alarm bells are already ringing.
It gets worse, yeah.
To reduce pain, because there they've already admitted that the animals feel pain, they suffer, and they get distress. So that's like, whoa. And then replacing animal experiments wherever possible by non-animal methods. Well, the final one is the one they should be concentrating on. That's what they should be. But of course, I was blind to this. So yeah. So that's their position. So I then rang up Vegan Mooncat. I'm sure he won't mind me mentioning it. And I had a chat with him. And he said, are they promoting animal products on the page? And I said, well, I haven't really looked, but as far as I know, they don't. Because I know the British Heart Foundation do say, oh, eat this, eat that. And they say eat animal products, and it's absolute bullshit. Eat fish, it's good for your heart. Drink a pint of wine a day, it's really good for your heart. So I won't ever contribute towards the British Heart Foundation until they pull this bullshit off the website. Because you're trying to stop something by telling people to do something that causes it in the first place. It's like, no. So we talked about it, and he agreed with me. Yes, it's a good way to look at it. It's a good way to get it out there to non-vegans that it's the diet that's causing the prostate cancer in the first place. So therefore, if you can get people to stop eating animals and go vegan, maybe, that offsets the fact that you're raising money for a charity that is experimenting on animals. So there was a logic there. And you can see the logic. It's sort of like Joey Carbstrong asked him about traveling on planes and stuff like that. And he said, well, the amount of people I've turned vegan offsets the amount of carbon and the carbon footprint that I cause by flying from A to B. We've worked it out. It outweighs it. I don't know whether that makes any sense. But I can see the logic behind it. You know, we've got to use a car to get from A to B, but if we're using that car to get to somewhere where we may have an opportunity to help a lot of people, it's sort of all this. So that was the reasoning behind it. And then I come onto Instagram and I clicked on the name and I trust their judgment, and it was vegan gays. And she turned my whole world upside down.
That's what I do.
So what did you do? Tell me what you did to me. Tell me what you sort of...
Well, you asked me if I'd done something wrong. And I was like, well, the thing is, right, so when it comes to vivisection, because I went vegan similar time frame as you, like 6.5 years ago. When I first started being vegan, some of the first protests I was doing was at like British Heart Foundation, you know, the British Heartless Foundation sort of campaigns. So I think the momentum for vivisection and to protest against it has really kind of died down. And I think that that means in people's minds that it's this necessary evil. And I think that's
what I mean. It's like the COVID vaccine, Ellie. It's like they cannot get it. It's not necessary per se, but it's necessary to get it into the public domain to help save lives.
That's the problem. There is this legality issue. Okay, so there is this kind of requirement for testing. However, there are these like alternatives that, you know, that's what I did in the Instagram I told you about, Animal Free Research UK. And they're a charity who are looking at alternatives, you know, without animal testing. Now, obviously, science is a really confusing place for all of these laws and everything. So, you know, they come into issues themselves. I can't recall those specific issues, but I know that they did have some issues with some of the testing that they've done, and it was previously, you know, animal tested research and stuff like that. However, you know, if this is why I'd say go for these alternatives, because it's important that people know the alternatives exist. They think it's a necessary evil. And the first time I was questioned about it was there's this documentary on the Animal Liberation Front called Behind the Mask, and it's on YouTube. You can watch it. There's a trauma researcher who is a trauma surgeon, Dr. Jerry Vlasak, and he became an activist because he did research on animals. He did research on dogs, and their research was to harden the arteries in dogs. And he recounted that this was kind of useless to do. You know, they were force feeding these beagles cholesterol, knowing fully well that their arteries function quite differently because, you know, they eat, you know, they're designed to eat far more flesh than, say, like a human being. So they were scraping the artery walls to try and get the hardening of the arteries, and nothing was happening. So that was the first time I heard about research that's just not useful. I know that I'd heard as well about dental surgery, that they were doing dental animal testing on animals when it's not necessary to do so. I'd found about there was this skewed mice testing they found that mice in room temperature, so they were doing cancer research on mice and found that their tumor growths were more than if they were in a hotter room. And it's funny because this is where you start seeing scientists talk about how unreliable animal research can be, because so they found this, that the tumor growth was very different, so it was skewing research. So the researchers had to let people know, look, if you're going to use mice, you have to store them at a specific temperature. And a psychologist, A.J. Chawla, said that the results cause little surprise. Mice living at room temperature have to work overtime to maintain their body temperature and have a high heart and metabolic rate. He says this study addresses an important issue that I think most of us have ignored. I tell my colleagues, you're modeling human disease and pathology in an organism that is like somebody who is on speed. Like this is the problem. Like there are chemicals, chemical differences, chemical reactions that come out differently on different animals. So that can lead to misleading research. So, but the thing is, if there is a problem and someone has a reaction in human testing, they can say and legally back themselves by saying, well, we tested this on 200 mice. So
it's a bit of thingy as well, a bit of arse covering.
Yeah, and as well as that, who I talked about at the start, Jerry Flassac, was saying that when grants are given, that grants, all these places that offer these grants to researchers, they do favor animal testing research because it provides more results. It doesn't necessarily provide quality of data, but it can provide a lot of quantity of data because it's cheap to buy mice and then test on them versus the alternatives that do exist currently. And there are alternatives. So
Oh yeah, because I've applied for a few of these testing things, like on asthma and stuff like that. I've tried to get my son involved with it because he's got asthma, even though he can just get rid of it by stopping dairy and being a dick. But yeah, and they pay quite well.
mhm.
So they ain't going to pay a mouse £300 a week to have an ear sewn on its back. You know what I mean? So it is, and that makes sense because it's people when they give money towards things, they want to see value for money.
Yeah.
And I suppose that makes sense. I suppose it makes sense in those circles, not to me, but in those circles it makes sense. But they're not actually
in a world where animals aren't in a world where animals aren't considered, it absolutely makes sense. Like if you're in the kind of society we're in, where it's fine to boil animals alive, bolt them in the head for a sandwich, it's like, well, why wouldn't you use them? But there are these alternatives, like for example, like you can find articles from 7 years ago about like stem cells that they've grown into cells about like to make any kind of like bodily organ. There were 3D printers being made that could let's see, that they were asking about the invention of the technology, and he said the inventor said, I'm aiming at testing. You've spent so long testing drugs on animals that they don't work on humans, or if they do, they produce adverse side effects. So the idea is that we would produce micro tissues of specific organs in the body, and then we would have the same reaction to the psychological environment, drugs, everything, as an entire organ would do, but on a much smaller scale. So that was this man called Faulkner Jones. And he made a 3D printer, so like to print body parts. And that was like 7 years ago. And as well as that, there was a team in the University of Central Florida. They developed a technology that mimics standard human muscular function, which is gross, but it allows them to monitor muscular function and its response to different treatments. And the research team, the professor James Hickman, says we've cured over 200 diseases in rats and mice that haven't translated to humans because our physiology is different. A lot of basic functions, a rat can run, a rat can do a maze, a rat can eat things, a rat can excrete. There are all kinds of things a rat can do that look like things that we're doing. The problem is small little modifiers. That the channels and receptors in all those cells are just a little different than ours. In other words, rats are not humans and humans are not rats. So there are so many, you can find so many researchers talking about how it's kind of a waste of time in some regards. Now, my limitation, I'm not a STEM researcher. I've never researched, so there might be these kind of fringe things that I'm not aware of, that absolutely there's no way you couldn't use a mouse to convey whether or not it'd be safe in humans. But I'm doubting it. From what I've seen, it does just look like it's a money thing and a legal thing.
Yeah. I mean, somebody sent me a video. I don't know whether you've seen this. Have you heard of Dr. Ray Greek?
Don't think so. I'm going to
play a little bit of this video, Ali, for the people out there, and I am going to link it in the description down below. So let's see if I can do share screen again because I'm such a boomer. Right, that's the one. So we got that.
Mm-hmm.
Let's make it big. Make it really big. And this is a chat with Ray Greek with Ricky Gervais. Now, I don't know whether Ricky Gervais is vegan yet, but he's very vocal on these matters.
Mm-hmm.
It just seems a bit weird, Ricky, but I just want to play this a little bit.
It's not going to make studying diseases easier. There is scientific merit. I mean, you can certainly learn things about frogs if you study frogs, but it's not going to translate to humans.
Yeah, I think that that stops some people in their tracks because to torture anyone to death, I think for any reason, it's not a good enough reason. And then to find out that actually it doesn't even work, it's a no-brainer. So why does it carry on? Why are there still horrendous experiments on animals?
There's two short answers. The first short answer is it's the status quo. And look at politics today. Usually the person that wins is the person who has the best lobbyist in the government. Okay, so the status quo is very difficult to supplant. Number two, there's just a lot of money in it. There are billions and billions of dollars in this. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of companies that this is how they make a living. Okay, you combine those two things, you don't really need anything else. Money and the status quo.
So basically,
So he's basically said what you said.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't work, but it's entrenched in society, and companies make a lot of wonga from it.
Mm-hmm. That's the thing. Unless they have a compelling reason in their mind to change, they're not going to do it. And they haven't got a compelling reason because the rights of animals are not considered. So why are they going to change? And it's brilliant for them because anyone who comes along and tries to change it can be shamed. Like it can be like, you don't care about people like with cancer or all this, like, stuff like that. So they're in this position where I think, to be honest with you, I think it will be one of the first things to go, but I think it will be kind of scientists within the field who just are uncomfortable with it and are, bringing more inventions. Because 7 years ago, they were making 3D printers. They were making, I know that Animal Free Research UK, when I was first looking at them, before they were Animal Free Research UK, they were Dr. Hadwin Trust. So a lot of people might know them by that name. They were making like skin grafts, so yeah. And that's the thing. It's like plant-based food or like something like lab-grown meat. It's going to be expensive at first, so they're not going to really want to do it. But then if it's more demanded, then it will make a change. But I don't know how long it will take for vivisection to go. But it is. If the public knew about it, especially the dogs, if they knew that, there are buildings, there are universities here in the UK that are like using dogs and like pulling their teeth out and doing like all sorts of stuff, and like unimaginable stuff, and then like killing them afterwards because they're in so much pain. Like, and you saw, if you saw my fundraiser with the Red Oak Animal Rescue, the pig who had all these burns and lashes like healed up in her on her back, because they were using her skin.
It's funny you talk about the dogs. I mean, during the 70s and 80s, it was a big thing about using beagles to smoking beagles.
Yeah, cigarette, yeah.
And I think even the young ones did a skit on it, having a beagle like smoking a fag with a rat or something. And we all knew about it, but again, it never even entered my head. I wasn't in that frame of thinking, But I just find it astounding that even I'm gonna big myself up. Even an intelligent guy like myself, who's been beat 4.5 years, I'm still not aware of this. And that's the scary thing, right? Is somebody like myself who is sprouting off all this information to people and telling people they shouldn't abuse animals and telling people they should change the diet and telling people they should stop buying leather and contributing towards this animal agriculture and this horrible stuff that's going on in the world. Yet I go and promote vivisection on animals and not even realize I'm doing it. And if I'm doing that, how many people in this society are exactly the same as me and totally unaware? I mean, the question I want to ask you, Ali, right, is if there hadn't been an alternative to that research, if that charity didn't exist where they don't test animals and they hadn't looked at prostate cancer, what would you have said to me then?
That'd be really difficult, because that's when it really comes into this kind of challenge of like, who you're going to put first. Are you going to put like cancer patients first, or, you know, like dogs or mice, or, you know, this is the problem with it. I think, because I put it in, like, say if I had, you know, one of these diseases, or someone I loved had one of these diseases, I'd want them, you know, having the treatment and everything.
Well, that would be hypocritical then.
Yeah, but the issue is, I have quite a problem, quite a skepticism about charities to begin with. Like Cancer Research UK has so much money, so much. So it's like, I don't know how I'd even go about this, because I don't like a lot of charities. Like, I prefer organizations.
I mean, sorry to interrupt while it's in my head. I'm Easy Vegan. Give me a shout, and he reminded me of something that I did know about, but I'd forgotten about. And it was the Macmillan charity, and they were telling people to try a plant-based diet. And the farmers kicked off and said, right, because they support Macmillan, they contribute to it, and they said, right, well, if you don't stop saying that, we will pull our funding from you.
That's funny, isn't it? Because nobody would be against them for doing that. That nobody would be like, you don't care about cancer. But if like a vegan pulls out of a charity because they animal test, then they're seen as like these horrible people.
Yeah, I mean, what like we talked before this stream, is I said to you, I would not support Cancer UK because at the Heart Foundation, the British Heart Foundation at the moment, because they are pushing non-vegan food as healthy food for people, and that is just counterproductive to what that's the cause of it. There's no denying that animal products have an association with heart disease. It's just totally obvious anyway. Just looking at the Western world, that we have meat 3 times a day, we have dairy 3 times a day, and we eat eggs, which are high cholesterol, and 600,000 men are dying every year in America of heart disease, dying. That's without the people who don't die and the people who get strokes and outside. It's obvious. So why are they pushing food when they know that there's research out there that plant-based diets actually cut your chances of heart disease? That's what they should be pushing. So I would not support a cancer charity. No, people might say, well, that's a bit harsh. You're affecting your own species. What are you doing? You're anti-human.
Well, as you said, like Macmillan, all they said was eat plant-based to avoid this, and then suddenly the dairy industry like piped up. So it makes you think, you know, are they giving money to the other ones as well, in order to you know, be like, oh, you know, we're a big old pork company, but we don't want people thinking bacon will cause these problems. So just, you know, just here's some money. I think there's a lot more money in all of this than we want to, than we're aware of. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
But the fundamental thing is, yeah, it would be really difficult. You put any kind of scenario where you've got to save your own life or save someone you love, especially their life, versus the life of another, and suddenly things get very difficult, and you start saying,
I suppose we could liken it to the desert island comeback. And if you're on a desert island, there was nothing to eat, all the plants were poisonous, there was just a pig there, would you eat the pig or starve? Well, I'd eat the pig.
Mm-hmm.
So I suppose it's very similar to that. Would you die a terrible, slow, painful death, or would you take the cure that's been tested on animals? Well, I'd take the cure that's been tested on animals.
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing. It's like, so if these things are mandatory, you can't avoid them, and that's why it does say in the definition where possible and practicable and whatever. Then, but the brilliant thing is it does look as if we don't need to do that to animals. So
I'm agreeing with you, mate. I'm agreeing.
It really does look that way, and especially when they've done so much testing that's so useless. It's just like, and there are so many researchers who say, yeah, we don't need to do this. You test on mice, it's like testing on people who are on speed. It's like, so they know something.
They tested on me then 20 years ago. I was buzzing my tits off every week. So this is the charity in question, and it's Animal Free Research UK. And there's a few articles in here. This is talking about the CRISPR or Cas9, best described as genetic scissors. Now, I've not read through this, so I'm not going to comment on it at all. But I'm going to have a look at this and see what it's all about. But this is the vision, mission, and values. Their vision is to create a world where human diseases are cured faster without animal suffering. By pioneering excellence, inspiring and supporting scientists, and influencing change, we will end the use of animals and improve medical research. Rigorous and evidential, we present factual, reliable information. Our work is evidence-based, thoughtful, and respected by our peers. Pioneering, we place ethics at the heart of science through innovative solutions, focused research. Our determination drives scientific discovery forward. Compassionate, we care deeply about people and animals. Our ambition is to end suffering, is heartfelt and unswerving. So, I mean, what else do you need to say about them?
Yeah, I think they're of this similar kind of idea that animal research is not only cruel, but it slows things down.
Yeah.
There are probably lots of research like the problem with the temperature for mice.
Yeah.
So if there are factors about them that are just fundamentally very different, then it means they're going to respond very differently to essentially everything, So
well, I mean, but another thing, just the common sense thing is, you spend 2 years experimenting on a mouse. Okay, you spend 2 years experimenting on the mouse. At the end of that 2 years that you've been doing all this, you've then got a test on a human anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got a test on a human anyway. So it doesn't matter whether you're testing on the mice or not.
Mm-hmm. I would feel as well, if I were one of the human trials, I'd feel far more comfortable knowing that they'd tested it on like things that mimic muscles and stuff like that, than put on the skin of a different species of animal. Like the reason, for example, they test on bunnies for cosmetics is because as far as I'm aware, bunnies they don't have tear ducts, so they can't cry. So
I've felt an instant sickness in the stomach.
Yeah, so basically, and the reason that they test on beagles as well, a lot of it's to do with the fact they're compliant. They're gonna do the animals Like, and so with like mice as well, they're not too far removed genetically in comparison to other animals. As well as that, they're small and cheap, really easy to breed. So, you know,
You can have
they've got these.
several in a small area. Yeah.
Yeah. So
And
yeah,
easy to
that's
get rid of.
yeah, that's why. But I'd feel well more comfortable. I've got to say, I'd just be like, what was this tested on? If they say like some random animal, then I'm just like, ugh. What about my skin though? My skin's different.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So to summarize, what do we need to do? How can we get this message out there? I mean, I'm gonna get this animalfreeresearch.org. I'm going to try and raise money for them over the coming months. I'm going to try and influence as many people as I can to maybe put stuff out there, because if we can end this is like a section victory. This is like one section of what we're fighting against. That is possible. This goal is a realistic goal within years. So I think we should fight this with everything we've got, because this one small victory would mean a lot. That would be one section out the way, finished. That side of things is gone, banished to history now. We can tell our grandchildren and our great-great-grandchildren all about how they used to test on animals. So I think this is a way forward for the next couple of years. I think it's something we need to sort of really push out there.
yeah, definitely. I think just knowing more about it and knowing, you know, and it's a very big, yeah, it would be a very big victory, because when you look at vivisection, like some of the most, it's like something out of a horror film. Like I'm not sure if you've seen like the monkey with the exposed brain. You know, they took apart the skull.
I've seen all sorts. I've seen some
yeah,
horrible
and
things.
it's just like, what are you doing? Like there are scientists who try to patent certain animals because they like breed them and differently, especially farmed animals, and they try to patent like specific types of animals. And it's just like, it's the things, you know, you look into it, you're like, why are you doing that? It just looks evil. And it's just seemingly for research. And it's like, yes, we find out lovely, amazing things, right? We've learned a lot by stabbing animals and whatnot, but I'm pretty sure a lot of spinal research in humans we found out through actually Hitler and his really horrible buddies who started just taking random bits out of people's spines and seeing what would happen. Like, you know, you learn a lot through doing some evil things, but it doesn't mean we
something, Ellie, it's funny you should say that, because most of our technology, the biggest jumps in technology are during wars, right? The computer was invented because of World War II. They wanted to decode the Enigma machine. So the computer was built, and built so quickly because of the war. We sent a man to the moon because the Nazi scientists were shipped over to America secretly to help develop the nuclear bomb and space travel. War is the biggest driver of technology that we could possibly have, because people need it very, very quickly. I think even it's one of the cancer cures. What's some of the radiation therapies connected with the war?
I think, yeah, there's a lot of things that we've got from the war. Yeah, and it's because you can get away. A lot of it is because you can get away with calling someone like you know, your enemy. Yeah. And you can do what you want to them. Like they did some horrible psychological research on prisoners. So
maybe should start a war.
Maybe we should.
Should we just start? You know, just like
why not?
Go to Scotland, because the Romans couldn't even invade Scotland. Let's all go to Scotland, all vegans, and then we'll start like just moving south and dominating.
Yeah, bit of stabbing.
Have I just said that? Do I sound like a psychopath? Of course you do.
But no, I'd recommend. Obviously, it's not like the most scientific documentary, but it gets you going. Behind the Mask, Animal Liberation Front, I think it's called, and it's on YouTube. It's like an hour and a half long or something. And there are some doctors and researchers in there who talk about how you recount how useless the research really is. And obviously there are so many kinds of research to do. There's so many different avenues you can go down. So maybe there are some that I'm looking at and thinking, oh yeah, well.
It's not Eric Clapton behind the mask, no?
No, behind the mask.
Oh, hang on a minute. I think I've got it here. Is it about the oceans and stuff like that? Is there all different?
It's about loads of things. It's got loads of but you'll know it's Animal Liberation Front from the thumbnail.
The page isn't called Animal Mask. The film is called Behind the
Yeah, the film's called Behind the Mask.
Right, so I've got an actual YouTube channel that's called Behind the Mask.
Oh, well, that's.
Well, I'll tell you what. Link it over to me, and
I shall.
I'll throw it over into
the
description below.
Below.
So, anything happening? What's happening in the future? Before we wrap up, what have you got planned for the next few weeks? Then during January, have we got anything exciting happening?
Nothing exciting. There's not very much exciting to do except sit on my bum.
Everything is exciting. I can't wait for your videos coming out. They're great. I love them.
Yeah, well, I've got a collab coming up. That'll be out by the time this is up, but with I'm Easy Vegan, the second one.
Second one, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm just so basically, actually, I'm going to be doing less videos, I think, because they take so long to do. I'd rather do my streams. So
yeah, I'm warming more towards a stream.
They're more interactive and fun, and you can find out more things, and it's like the editing.
And it promotes thinking, doesn't it? Things just perk you, and we both talk to camera. We both can sit there and talk to camera, and I like it. Sometimes I talk to camera, and I sort of and that's it. But when I'm on the screen, it's sort of like, oh yes, yeah, bang, bing, 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 bing. And it's great. It stimulates. It's stimulating. I love it.
Exactly. So I want to do the streams, and they're more interactive, less time consuming. It takes hours to make one of my videos. Hours. So
unless something comes up that is really relevant,
oh yeah, I still want to make them because they are fun to make, and people like the style. So
my Tales of the Lorry Cab, I reignited that.
I saw that,
and a few people have commented saying, "Oh, I really missed these," and it's like I didn't realise that they were as popular. And when I look at it, I think, it's more from the heart, because I'm sat in my car, I've driven for 4.5 hours to somewhere, and things have ticked over in my head, and I get it out, and I'm going to start doing a few more of those, because those are easy. I just talk to my phone, and then you
don't know people are liking it because they don't tell you see, and then when you get rid of something, they're like, oh
yeah.
It's like, well,
we used to have a cafe, and it's amazing when it comes to food, especially in the UK. We're very reserved in the UK, and when it comes to food, people vote with their feet. If they don't like something, they just won't come back. Whereas in the US, people complain, and it's like, how am I supposed to know I'm doing something wrong unless you tell me I'm doing something wrong? What are you going to do? That sausage was burned. What do you think we'll do? Just ram it in your face? It's like, oh, I'm really sorry. Let's try and do it again. It's like anything. Unless people tell you how you're supposed to know you're doing things wrong. But unfortunately, YouTube is exactly the same animal. People vote with their feet. They'll just unsubscribe.
I hope it's not an animal, because then we can't use it anymore.
Yeah, I know. I still use these euphemisms, and mate, I've been in it too long.
They're the least of the problem. I don't see a problem with them.
I still use it, and sometimes.
Oh, yeah. I don't. I'm good at that. I guess I'm just better than you. So.
You are better than me. You are way better than me.
Nah, it's this habit, isn't it? It really is habit. You don't mean anything by it, but it is important.
Especially when you call me names like Edgelord and
You are an edgelord. I can't believe you didn't know no one had called you that before.
I don't even know what it means, Ellie, for God's sake.
Just you don't know what edgy means.
I know what
You know what I
edgy
mean?
means. Yeah, I know, like,
Yeah, well, if you're an edgelord, you're the lord of the edgy, aren't you?
so I'm just like pushing things out there. I'm just,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm still going to wear my underpants on my head and have a cape. I'm going to have a big E on the back. And then
big.
I'm going to run around and hold them. Why do you put these images in my head? You shouldn't do this to people like me. Like, listen, thank you so much for giving up some of your valuable time.
Oh, you're very welcome.
And I want to thank you wholeheartedly, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, is thank you for helping me see the light, because it could have got quite messy with my fellow vegans.
I wasn't even like, I was just like, you know, I was sitting there like, I wouldn't have done that. Because
the thing is, though, it's how people put it to you, you know. What's the point in sending me messages saying you do realise the experiment with animals? But you just come and said, look, there is an alternative. Right, bang, there we go. That's all I needed to know. There's an alternative. Thank you very much. That's it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But
you can't really blame people for not... You can't scrutinise people for the information they don't really have. And, you know, it's... literally, the things that you don't even think are animal tested, like dog food. You wouldn't think that requires animal use and cruelty, but it does. I mean, obviously it's got animals in it, but even further.
You wouldn't think that dog food has to be suitable for human consumption as well,
No.
Correct?
So, yeah, it's this complete rabbit hole of just
we need
mess.
to be more honest with each other. We need to get this vivisection, animal testing thing out there more to people and make them realise that all these charities are just prolonging this suffering, and I think that's what we need to do, Ellie. But listen, thank you, mate. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much. And I think this will obviously be out by the time you put this up, but Roger Yates is going live tonight. And the title's something like Vivisection, The Untold Secret or something like that.
Okay. Yeah, I'll definitely be watching that.
Yeah, so we'll be in that. So let me just double check real quick before. Sorry, you're gonna have to edit more.
If you're watching this, it will have already happened, and it will be in the. I've got to remember to put all these things in the description below.
Yeah.
I've really got to.
He's got a lot of work ahead of him. It's called Vivisection and the Vegan Movement. So yeah.
It is interesting. It has changed. It's been a blessing in disguise, this, to be honest with you. It's been a real blessing in disguise, because it's made me think about something that really needs pushing more now, because if I can fall for it, anybody can fall for it.
Exactly.